Told y'all, Dynasty, Rockefeller Records, heard me? Unstoppable. Single, heard me? Dynasty, who you believe? King of man, better, more cheddar, close, not the man on your polo sweater. Roll with the ROC, hey fella. Remember me and the teachers used to fellas, now it's no spiller. 4 killers, 4 willers, we go willers, complete fillers. We heat holders, fighting listen boy, for a joke, look still us. The block licking, we got the game tied up, stop tripping. Jigger me, single, y'all, million, million, Captain Ham, now Captain Ham. The fire has been burned down, happy lane. Social club, we on the culture club, no social. Gone postal, great name, from the arm close to your toast, like a dog supposed to. Show. I thought I told you, these ain't just vocals. Don't make me take it to the old school. I put holes through your holes too. Through your clothes, through the balls, through the get close to you. Sugar man, single, y'all, million, what? Yeah, y'all, don't get caught with flip load of soul, that rest of you get it. It's empty, I don't give no time for them. Got the money, say you don't love your time, I crush your last things and talk about us. No obituary, I get it straight for you. Know the way from
Hey guys, we are going to start this thing in a couple minutes. I just want to give everyone a chance to get on and get some questions in. Yeah, let me know. We'll let's get this thing started very, very soon. Gonna give it a couple more minutes. Got a couple questions in, but we'll hold up until we get a couple more. So please fire away, guys. All right, guys, we'll get it going. See if anyone else wants to chime in. Please feel free whenever. Uh, we do have one question to start off, and that's coming from my guy Jeff Stewart. Jeff Stewart asks, "Do you think Isaiah Thomas could be an intriguing bench piece for the Sixers? Total free agent, so it wouldn't cost much, and the Sixers could offer him a chance to return to the NBA. Ball handling and shot creation, shot making, fill lots of holes, needs for the bench." I do agree in theory, Jeff. Isaiah Thomas would make a lot of sense. But I would say the concern is obviously, the concern that he had when he was still in the NBA, which is his size. The big reason why, he's always been a really gifted player, always a gifted scorer. When he was in Boston, obviously was the apex of that. He was sensational. But because he was so good offensively at that point, you could kind of overlook the defensive shortcomings. The guy is, if he is 6 feet tall, it certainly doesn't look like it. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head with as far as the skill set goes. They're going to need more shot creation. They're going to need more scorers. They're going to need more gifted offensive players. For me, the only way I can imagine Isaiah Thomas being a Sixer is if, let's say, they do another deal, a larger deal where maybe they have an empty roster spot or two, and they're looking for just a couple veteran guys to kind of fill the holes. Sure, if he's one of the last spots in your roster, you want to just kind of give him a look, see what he can do, see how he can help you. Sure, I will say, and it's no disrespect to Isaiah Thomas because he was such a great player for so long, but there's a reason why some of these guys aren't in the league right now. I know Isaiah Thomas also had, he had that hip issue. He says he feels more like himself. He's looked good in those in the games for Team USA he's played. He certainly looked pretty good. But yeah, to me, that would be Jeff. Like that would be a guy I would look at only once you've maybe made some other moves and maybe filled some other holes in other places, and then maybe that's the guy you kind of look at again to help out. Maybe you go to him at a certain situation where you just really need scoring. Thanks for the question, Jeff. Really appreciate it, man. I know you're a loyal guy to the show and to the podcast and everything, and I appreciate you, man. Next one's going to come from Brandon after. Brandon says, Sixers only make minor tweaks, but the same starting lineup remains. What do you think is their ceiling? So I think first things first is that the starting five has been excellent. When you look at it from an advanced analytical standpoint, they're one of the top five-man lineups in the NBA really this season. Obviously, a big chunk of that is the play of Joel Embiid, the play of Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and the way those guys have really elevated their games this year. And then but the Seth Curry, when he's been hot and he's added really that supplemental shooting. Obviously, since he came back, he's been pretty up and down. But when at the beginning of the season, that was looking like a steal of a trade. I still think there is chemistry to be developed between him and Joel Embiid in that two-man game. Even the same with Ben Simmons. I think you could see them even involved in more DHOs and pick and rolls as things pick up and as Seth gets more healthy and back kind of more in game shape. And as really the rest of the Sixers players get healthy as well. And Danny Green, I think Danny Green sometimes, listen, he runs hot and cold from a shooting perspective. There's no doubt about it. But he does do a lot of little things, a lot of veteran type things, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Just a smart player. So that's the kind of guy you would kind of want to keep around. At the same time, if there's a way to upgrade that, sure. Obviously, the names that have been talked about, a Kyle Lowry, a Victor Oladipo, those guys would be upgrades. And if there is an opportunity to get one of those guys, you pounce. But kind of getting to your question, Brandon, I do think there are moves they can make that aren't a Lowry or an Oladipo that can still make this team put him on another level. You can improve this bench in a big way. I would say my biggest priority would be finding another ball handler for the bench, another shot creator for the bench, in addition to Shake Milton. I absolutely do think Shake Milton is a playoff piece for this team, but I would really like to see a proven veteran guard to kind of help him with the ball handling responsibilities, get the team into the offense, get the team into the sets, and just like a playoff savvy guy. I know George Hill is a guy that's been mentioned a lot. I think he'd be an absolutely perfect fit. When you look at his shooting numbers, a couple of years ago, I mean, when he was in the playoffs, when he was with the Bucks a couple of years ago in that Eastern Conference Finals, he was outplaying Eric Bledsoe. I mean, he was really really good against Toronto in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was not the reason they lost that series. If you go back and look at his numbers, he was great. Just his raw numbers, he was terrific in that series. So a guy like that, who's been around, who's played big time playoff minutes, that would be a guy I would really have my eye on. And then the other obvious one I think everyone's mentioned is that stretch four slash small ball five. Any kind of guy you can get in that could fit that. Nights where Dwight maybe has a tougher matchup. Whether that's PJ Tucker would obviously be the number one guy. That would be the best target that they could approach when you look at PJ Tucker's versatility, his ability to play small ball five, his ability to stretch the floor, can really guard kind of 1 through 5. I mean, he's just a really versatile, really good, talented basketball player. Really talk about a glue guy. He is like the essence of that. So PJ Tucker would be first on my list as far as that category goes. But then, you could also look at a guy like Nemanja Bjelica in Sacramento, the jokingly quote unquote former Sixer. I think he could be a fine fit. Again, it's not a guy that necessarily needs to play every night, but when you see Dwight Howard caught in a tough matchup against a guy like a Chris Boucher or someone like that, you could go to Bjelica, who could maybe help mitigate some of the shorthand, some of the matchup issues you would encounter there. So I do think there are bench moves they can make that would make them right up there with the types of the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks, and put them right in that conversation as the top team in the East going to the playoffs, without shaking up the starting five. Now I still think they might, and I still think they could. Again, if a guy like Kyle Lowry is available, you absolutely have to take a look, because he could just dramatically improve your chances of being, again, an upper echelon team going into the playoffs. Maybe even a close to an Eastern Conference favorite. You and the Brooklyn Nets at that point would be right up there. And you look at how you would match up against the Nets. Lowry with Lowry with Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons with Durant, and then and then maybe you throw Matisse out there in your starting lineup to run with James Harden. So I mean, it would definitely open up some options and make your team look pretty good. Yeah, and Brandon, to your next question about Seth. Yeah, that's just unfortunately, that's just kind of his release. He just kind of has a little bit. He doesn't have quite that quick release that his brother does. He just isn't quite that quick fire guy. He's a little smaller, and that could be part of it. And it's tough because the ball goes in, so you really don't want to tweak too much of that. He's obviously, right now the active leader in 3-point shooting, so it's not much you want to tweak there. So I don't know that there is a way that he's ever going to be a quicker shooter. I think he kind of is what he is at this point. And I do think that recently it's certainly clearly, dealing with COVID clearly affected him in a big way. And I would expect him, as we get going here, I would expect him to be better as he gets back. He admitted he's not really quite in game shape. So as we go along here, I would expect him to get better. And then hopefully that chemistry again would develop with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and, add another dimension to their offense that could make them on a different level offensively. Thank you so much for the questions, Brandon. I really appreciate it, man. Next question is coming from Marston Carter. He asks, is this Ben's best season? I would say that this recent stretch is the best stretch of his career. It's hard to say it's not. I know he had that one stretch last year, like January, February, where he was excellent. He had that game against the Nets. I vividly remember Martin Luther King Day. That up until maybe the Utah game, to me, that was his best game he ever played. He was unbelievable in that game. But I think the fact that this stretch is occurring with Joel Embiid, and in a season where they are the number one seed in the conference, the fact that that Tobias Harris is on a different level, the fact that that's all happening and he's still producing this way, and I think you're seeing. As much as I know it drives everyone nuts with the shot, and I get it, trust me, I totally get it, but I think you're seeing the evolution of his game as a scorer, and him seeing that sometimes him looking to score is kind of that high percentage play. And there's just like little nuances, and I think Sam Cassell has probably played a huge part in this. Just like the little nuances that maybe he didn't quite pick up on his first few seasons. And I think it's also just like experience, seeing the floor and seeing how teams attack him and how he can then attack them. I think that kind of has, his mindset has definitely changed. He's talked about his mentality recently. Seems like he's playing a little bit angrier, jawing in guys' faces after he dunks on them. Picked up a technical against Tyler Johnson that one game. So clearly playing with a different mentality, a different attitude. And I would say, like I said, is this season as a whole his best season? Maybe, but I would certainly say that this stretch over the last few weeks has been the best he's ever played in the NBA. And the other thing that I really love, the two things really, is the turnovers have been way down. He had a lot. I think he had 7 against the Cavs the other night, which is no good. A lot of that was a product of their offense and them not being able to move the basketball and them kind of playing sloppy and looking stagnant. But overall, he's been much better taking care of the basketball. He's been getting to the free throw line and making them. Cavs game was, he was 1 of 6 in that game, not so much. But before that, he had been really good from the line and getting the line a lot. So, plenty of positive signs and a lot of things heading in the positive direction. Um, it's all good things for the Sixers as far as Ben goes. I think right now, at some point, maybe that shot develops. I don't think it's going to happen for you this year, but maybe down the road. And then Marston follows up with, who do you think is the worst matchup for the Sixers in the playoffs? I mean, right now, I think the worst matchup for really any team has got to be the Brooklyn Nets. When you look at that trio, no one can boast that kind of firepower. 3 guys that could just really not only score the basketball, but 3 guys that can all create too. The Sixers would kill for 1 guy that can create off the bounce, and they have 3, and that could all do it at an elite level. We're talking about maybe 3 of the top maybe 10, maybe even 5 shot creators in the entire league all in one lineup. So that's just something that's really difficult to contend with. And then you factor in that they can all shoot the basketball really well too. You have a guy like Joe Harris who's, he's just going to feast, getting so many good open looks from all of the attention and all the gravity that those 3 players get. I mean, that is a nightmare matchup for all teams. Again, you get a Kyle Lowry, maybe you match up a little bit better, but even then, it's a really difficult team to contend with. Marston, thank you so much for the question, man. I appreciate it. All right, and then we got this one coming from. All right, this is coming from Kev on Twitter. What do you see Joe and Isaiah Joe and Paul Reed worst case and best case scenario for the Sixers in the next few seasons? What do you expect will happen to them? Any chance they get traded? I can tell you that the Sixers like both guys. There's a reason why they drafted both. Especially Joe. They really were very high on Joe, and that's a lot of reports about him being promised by the Sixers, and that pretty much played out that way, as you could see. To me, what stood out most to me with Isaiah Joe was his defense. He's a guy that we all knew could shoot the basketball. We all saw that coming out of Arkansas. The guy can really shoot. He's got a pretty stroke. It's effortless. He's got a great release. But the defense, he's definitely got to add some pounds. He's got to add some strength. But he's really good at moving his feet. He's really good at kind of beating guys to spots, which is not an easy thing for a 21-year-old rookie to do at the NBA level. And he's done it pretty darn well. And so, I would just like to see maybe in the G League him get some minutes now, which he's clearly going to get. So, get some minutes up, get some shots up, get some experience. Again, playing bigger minutes as opposed to sporadic kind of minutes for what he was playing here. He earned those minutes, but it was just, it's a tough thing when you're a team that's competing, trying to be the top seed in the Eastern Conference, and then you also want to get guys run. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Isaiah Joe to get down there and play in the Sixer system and kind of star a little bit. I'm sure he'll be in the starting lineup. I'm sure Connor Johnson's going to tell him to take 10 threes a game, and they're going to be comfortable with that. I would just like to see him maybe offensively just get going a little bit, and then he'll be back. You know what I mean? Soon enough. So then when he comes back, maybe he can help them out still. Who knows? A lot of things could happen between now and the end of the season, and maybe he's a guy that can help them. As far as Paul Reed goes, man, I think you just really have to be impressed with what he's done down there. I mean, he was probably a little bit ahead of the curve compared to some other guys, considering he had some NBA time. He was with the Sixers in camp and all that. So probably, ahead of the curve of a lot of guys, but you still have to give him a ton of credit. I've been impressed with the way he shot the 3 ball. his stroke is funky. Like there's no two ways about it. It's really funky. It doesn't look pretty, but he's got touch. He showed that off of the ball. He's got touch around the rim, and it's translating. He's playing at a pretty damn high level, and he's a guy. When he was up here, Doc Rivers said he could be. He's an energy guy. The ball just kind of finds him because that's just the type of player. I think he had 5 offensive rebounds in that Denver game that he got to play in. So when you couple that, that activity level that he can do, his ability to block shots and get steals, just get his hands on basketballs in general. He can be a screener and a roller. That to me, that's like the biggest thing I would like to see developed. The three is great. That's a huge part of it, and it's going to help him in a big way. But I think him becoming more of a small ball five where he can screen and roll and become almost like a rim to rim guy and then occasionally bomb a three. I mean, that's really in the NBA. That's the kind of guys you're looking for. Those are the type of players you're trying to mold. So I do think Joe and Reed. I think both guys could be potentially NBA rotation guys. How good can they be? I mean, I don't know. I would say if they wind up being bench players, like rotation players down the line, as second round picks, you can't really ask much more than that. That's pretty great. Again, from a value standpoint. Now, listen, I mean, the Sixers are a team that's trying to contend. So if another team has interest in one of those players, and you could get a piece that could really elevate you and bring you to the next level, then yeah, you're gonna explore it. And I know a lot of people when the James Harden rumors were going around, everyone said, "Oh no, not Tyrese Maxey." I mean, listen, Tyrese Maxey, I think he's going to be a hell of a player, but when you have a chance to get really elite talent and you are a team that's competing for a championship, you have to explore those options. And I think that's what makes Daryl Morey such a great GM, or executive, well, however you want to phrase it, is that he is going to explore all the options. He's going to kick the tires on everything. So I think that's, nothing's out of the question. I know that, like I said, I know the Sixers are high on both guys. I know both guys look like they have some pretty, they could have pretty decent futures as NBA players. So don't want to count that out. But thank you so much for the question, man. I appreciate it. All right. That's from Kelvin Nunez. Thank you, Kelvin. I appreciate it, man. All right. Anyone else got anything before I get back to my seat and start watching some basketball? I'll hang out for a few more minutes. You guys got anything else? Fire away. From Richard Bitto, if you were king for a day, what moves would you make? Well, um, let's see. I don't even know where to start. Well, all sporting events would end at like 8 o'clock at night. That would probably be the first thing because I'm old now. I just can't do it no more, man. I just want them to be a little bit earlier. That would be great. These West Coast games can't even do them. Can't even do them. Can't make it anymore. Let's see. Uh, king for a day, maybe probably lots of free beer for a lot of people would probably be a thing, especially for myself. Um, yeah, that's about it. That's about all I got. Yeah, and right now, Joel Embiid is out on the court warming up, so we'll see if he goes tonight. Tobias Harris already ruled out. If you guys didn't see that, so the Sixers are going to be very shorthanded. And then again, no Isaiah Joe because he is down in the Orlando bubble playing in the G League. So going to be very, very, very shorthanded. And then possibly even more shorthanded if Joel Embiid can't go. We'll see. Closer to the All-Star game too, you probably don't want to take too many chances. So we'll see what happens there. All right, we'll give it like 5 more minutes. If you guys got anything else, fire away. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like this Lloyd Pierce news. It's ridiculous. And then to see the way it was done too is garbage. The players didn't even know he was getting fired. Like the whole thing is a joke. Like you give the guy 2 years, and then this year, and they didn't even have like everyone. I when they were like a trendy playoff pick, I didn't understand it because I just didn't think that they were there yet. Sure, Trey Young is Trey Young. He's an unbelievably talented offensive player. They got a couple good young players. I like John Collins a lot. I don't know if I like, is he going to be there long term? I don't know. Um, I like Hunter. I like Reddish probably more than most people do. But, you think you're going to sign, trade and sign Boogie Bogdanovich and Gallinari and Rondo and Dunn, and that's going to like elevate you. Plus, they've been banged up, man. They've had injuries. I didn't get that at all. I thought that was garbage. Did not like it. And Doc Rivers did not like it either. He was not thrilled about it. Right? Don't blame him. Especially like the sport of basketball. Like I don't want to take anything away from coaches because there are some really great coaches, but like there's 5 guys on the floor at a time. All right, I'm about to wrap this thing up. So if anyone has anything else, I will answer. But if not, I am gonna hop off and go watch some basketball. All right, I'm gonna hop off. I appreciate you guys so much for questions and for tuning in. I'm gonna try to do this stuff more often, do a few more live streams, and yeah, I appreciate the questions from everyone, guys, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Hopefully, knock out another episode of coming in for landing by the end of this week. And during the All Star break, I know I've already talked to a couple of people, some pretty good guests that hopefully will come on and talk some hoops. If you guys ever have questions, always hit me up, man. You can find me on Twitter at Paul Hudrick. It's that easy. And any comments about any of the former podcasts, also feel free to comment. So I appreciate you guys very much. I will talk to you very soon.